Thank you for joining. Welcome, dear viewers. Ace Ventura, Vedi Tigray, Menelik. Thank you all of you for joining. Iyaso Selassie says, Hi, Mr. I like your mature analysis. Thank you for appreciation, Iyaso. Girsham says, I like you, everything you do. Thank you, Girsham. Yusuf is asking about TDF Army. Ace Ventura is appreciating my reports. Maiko the Great has joined. Thank you for joining, Maiko the Great. Maiko the Great says, We can't hear you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, viewers? There's something wrong with Maiko the Great's equipment. Everything is fine here. Aisha Jaffer has joined. She's asking about Jawar Muhammad release. N. Be confident. Before starting today's live chat session, viewers, one breaking news: Ethiopian elections have been delayed. Just a few minutes ago, this news came that Ethiopian National Election Board has postponed elections. But the National Election Board says the postponement will be for around 3 weeks. So elections are now going to be held in July. Is this postponement due to international pressure? No, I don't think so, because a very short postponement for just 3 weeks. It's due to some problems related to voter registration and some issues regarding polling stations. So elections will be held but postponed for almost 3 weeks. It's not due to any international pressure. It's due to some delays in preparations. Debisai Zeratsion Machok Mejong is asking about how to solve Ethiopian problem. Sahil Sohail is asking about any TDF journal skilled. Matthias Gizao, Ismail Shikle, is Sudan training and arming TDF, sir? Ismail Shikai is asking, is Sudan training and arming TDF, sir? Well, yes, a very relevant question, and question which is being discussed in several circles. Is Sudan backing any TDF fighters? Is Sudan training any TDF fighters? Viewers, Sudan Ethiopia border is sealed. There is no likelihood of any entry into Amhara region from Sudan. Even if Sudan is, if we presume that Sudan is arming TPLF and TDF soldiers, how will these soldiers enter Tigray? Tigray is almost sealed on all sides. From Sudan into Eritrea, then into Tigray, it's impossible. From Sudan into Amhara, then into Tigray, it's almost impossible as well. That is why I see the statement given by General Tesfaye Alo about Sudan arming TDF fighters. I see this statement as a way of putting pressure upon Sudanese government, just like Sudanese government is putting pressure upon Ethiopian government to stop Ethiopia from starting the second filling of GERD. I don't think that Sudan is training TPLF fighters, TDF fighters. TDF fighters do not need training, viewers. TDF fighters need supplies. They need weapons. They need safe routes to and from Sudan. Can Sudan provide weapons to TDF? In present circumstances, it's almost not impossible, but it's very difficult. And TDF fighters are already trained. There's no need of training. What TDF need is arms, supplies, equipment, medical supplies, food. That is what TDF fighters need, and it's very difficult to send these supplies from Sudan into Tigray viewers. Secondly, we haven't seen any large-scale offensive by Ethiopian forces into Sudan to take back the areas recently captured by Sudanese forces. That's why I personally think that Sudan is not actively backing Tigray defense forces. Uh, People might not agree with me, but the evidence which has been shared by Brigadier Tisfai Yalo is not sufficient. Even people are questioning about those killed, that they are not TDF soldiers, let alone their training in Sudan. Viewers. Tigisti A, hello, good to see you live. Hello, Tigisti A. Tigisti A. Philmon Phil is agreeing with me regarding Sudan arming TDF soldiers. Machok Mejong, is independence for Tigray region a possible solution? Who will accept this solution? Ethiopian government will never accept this solution. Solution would be the one which would be acceptable to all the parties. So independence is not something which can be created consensus on. That is why it could be a solution for TPLF, for the people of Tigray, but not for Ethiopian government, for federal government of Ethiopia. I am here has joined. Ace Ventura is asking, is there drone attacks or drone surveillance in Tigray? Yes, important question is Ventura. Is there any evidence of the presence of drone now in Tigray? No, Ace Ventura. According to my information, there is no evidence regarding drones operating in Tigray. No. Jabir Siraj is saying Eid Mubarak. Thank you, Jabir. Eid Mubarak to you as well. There is no evidence of drones being used in Tigray. Now, UAE has withdrawn from, Assab base. UAE has shifted its assets to another base. UAE is trying to minimize its role in this area, viewers, because UAE wanted some military equipment from the US, which UAE has secured. UAE bought some fighter jets from the US during Trump era, but when Biden took office, he paused that deal. Now the deal has been revived, viewers. UAE is going to get fighter jets, I think F-35 in the coming days. So for a while, UAE minimized its operations in this area. We are not seeing any UAE's drones operating in Tigray. And Ethiopia does not have very sophisticated combat drones, according to my information. Sahil is saying drones can't beat guerrilla fighters because they are always mobile. Yes, drones have their limitations faced with guerrilla warfare, but still they can play a role in surveillance, in monitoring. Nahom SFA, I have a solution. We all denounce our leaders, all of them, but that would leave a void on who would lead the region. Nahom SFA, it's a bit radical solution, but yes, it's possible. If there are problems in Ethiopia, all leaders are to be blamed for that. Not only Ethiopian federal government, not only Abiy Ahmed, but also TPLF leaders. All of them has some bit of responsibility for the mess in which Ethiopia is now. Ethiopia needs a sort of new uh, plan about ruling this country. It was being ruled along ethnic lines during TPLF era. Abiy Ahmed came, he tried to remove these ethnic fault lines. He created Prosperity Party. But that experience backfired. It led to further ethnic hatred among different groups in Ethiopia. Almost daily, I am covering ethnic violence in some part of Ethiopia. 2 days ago, I informed you about clashes between Oromos and Kures in Amaro Warida of SNNPR. Then today, I informed you about fighting between Amharas and Gumas in Benishan Gumas along border, Sudan-Ethiopia border. So almost every day we hear about ethnic violence in Ethiopia. There must be some sort of larger solution to these problems. These problems cannot be solved by Abiy Ahmed alone, by Debretsion alone, by Jalmaro alone, by Jawar Muhammad alone. Believe me, viewers, you need a comprehensive solution with all the stakeholders on board. That is why inclusive dialogue is the only way. All the parties, political parties, ethnicity oriented parties, all the groups, OLA, OLF, all the groups, all the parties must be on board to find a solution to Ethiopian problems. Uzil Ganer has joined. Thank you, Uzil Ganer, for joining. Someone is asking about when will the war in Tigray end? Your evaluation. I was going to talk about it as the subject, the topic of today's live chat is. Excuse me. The topic of today's live chat is Tigray War Weekly Update. There is a deadlock in central Tigray, viewers. Though you might have heard about TDF advancing into Amhara region, into western Tigray, Humera has been encircled. You must have heard all these things on different channels. But I did not say anything about these baseless news according to my information news. In the past few days, TDF have not carried out any attack into Amhara region. There is no extensive fighting in western Tigray. Humera is not encircled, as is being claimed by some analysts, some reporters, whatever you say. So I report about those developments which are confirmed according to my criteria. There is an impasse in central Tigray. Ethiopian National Defense Forces, especially Eritrean forces, launched this offensive on central Tigray. But they could not uh, inflict decisive and heavy damage on TDF. TDF has managed to open another front, and that is Hosen front. Hosen is a separate front, viewers. It's in eastern Tigray. So Eritrean forces could not crush TDF. TDF managed to advance east towards Hosen. That is why, though TDF has not been able to completely push Eritrean forces out of Tigray, that is why I'm saying there is a sort of deadlock in central Tigray. TDF is fighting a bitter war in central Tigray. Eritrean forces, which were due to start leaving Tigray after inflicting losses on TDF in central Tigray, they are caught up in central Tigray. They cannot withdraw from central Tigray now because they haven't been able to crush TPLF, TDF so far in central Tigray. So there is a sort of deadlock in this war. No side is emerging as one having an edge over the other side, especially in central Tigray. But there is no fighting, again, viewers, in western Tigray. By fighting, I mean extensive fighting, large scale attacks. Yes, there might be some sort of small scale attacks, but we cannot say that there is extensive fighting in western Tigray, even in northwestern Tigray as well, viewers. Beatles is saying that they cancelled the election indefinitely. Not indefinitely, Beatles. What NEBE has announced is that the delay will be for around 3 weeks. So it's not that indefinitely elections have been postponed. Jabir is asking, can you trust Ethiopian government reports about Tigray war? Can you trust it? No, I cannot. I never trust reports. But I give them equal coverage because I want you to have a look at both sides of the picture. This is the main problem, viewers, that the channels which are covering this war are one-sided. Either they are backing TDF or they are supporting ENDF. So whenever I take a subject or topic, I try to give you both sides' point of view. Please listen to other side's point of view. There is nothing wrong with that. You're not forced to agree to it, but at least listen to it. Then you can form your opinion. You can decide what's right, what's wrong. But let me give coverage to both sides because it's missing, viewers. Honestly, it's missing. I watch several channels which are covering this war based in Tigray, mostly based out of Tigray, but some based in Ethiopia, some outsiders as well. But that thing is missing regarding giving attention to both sides. Beatles, yes, you're right. They delayed elections last year in August. Election was due to be held. It was delayed. Now again delayed. Let's see what happens. We have seen some pressure upon Ethiopian government. We have seen EU withdrawing deployment of its observers for the monitoring of these elections. We have seen some bits of pressure upon Ethiopian government. And there was some talk of the postponement. Let's see, will they be held in the next month or not? Uzil Gunner says, what will happen to Eritrean forces if they don't win in Central Tigray? Uzil, Eritrean forces have a very obvious edge that their supply lines are flowing and they are intact. So you'll see more and more Eritrean forces coming in from Eritrea into Tigray, then onwards into Central Tigray. That is why they can fight for long here. Problem is for TDF that their supply lines have been cut off, blocked, and they need to push Eritrean forces out of Central Tigray, or they need to spread to the east or to the west or into Amhara. Mark T, what do you think would be the next move of the EU, UN, and the US? Nothing solid is expected to come about Tigray at the UN because we have seen that there are differences between US on one side, China, Russia, India on the other side. So you won't see anything solid announced at the UN. US can do things on its own unilaterally, but so far we have seen that US is going for diplomacy. US is trying to involve Middle Eastern countries like Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Egypt, and Turkey to resolve Tigray crisis. So the US is going for diplomatic solution. It won't announce any sanctions in the coming days. Jeffrey Feltman has wrapped up his visit. He is back home, but he is due to return after a few days. He has met with all the leaders, with Asayas, with Abiy, with Sudanese Prime Minister. He went to Egypt as well. He met with Abdul Fattah al-Sisi. So he's back there, and after his visit, we have seen that State Department has issued a statement calling for the withdrawal of Eritrean forces. So pressure is definitely mounting upon Eritrean forces. But Eritrean forces, before starting their withdrawal, want to crush TDF. So far, they are not succeeding. Someone is asking about how reliable your information is. How do you get your information? Because you can get loads of information about Tigray. There are so many ways. But the important thing is how to verify it, how to differentiate between propaganda and facts. This is the most important part. So, getting information is not difficult, but confirming that information, distinguishing between truth and propaganda is the most important thing, which which I do because I have covered several wars. So it's not difficult for me. Theo Birkot is asking about, do you think we'll see power sharing? Ming Han is asking, have Eritrean troops engaged OLA? Ming Han, interesting question. OLA issued a statement about the presence of Eritrean troops in Oromia. But we haven't seen so far any evidence about the presence of Eritrean forces in Oromia. We know that Eritrean forces are in Tigray. We have pictures, videos. International media has confirmed this news that since November, EDF have been fighting in Tigray. But we don't have this confirmation about Eritrean forces in Oromia. And I haven't heard of any engagement, any fighting between Eritrean forces and OLA in Oromia. Therefore, I don't think that we have sufficient evidence now to say that Eritrean forces are in Oromia. Manilek is saying Eritrea is not interested in Oromia. Diaspora Wayne, you have a good channel. I watch it a lot. Diaspora Wayne, thank you. Daniel Shinkuti, TPLF is not active in Western Tigray because residents are mainly Amharas. Ming Han is asking about, do you think Oromos in Addis Ababa will rise against government forces? They can rise if they have leaders, if they have some objectives, if there is groundwork, homework done. We don't have this sort of groundwork done in Addis Ababa. If there would be an uprising in Addis Ababa, it could be after OLA advancing into Addis Ababa. Otherwise, there is no likelihood of the locals rising on their own against Ethiopian government in Addis Ababa. Theo Birkot, do you think we'll see a transitional government in Ethiopia? Theo, this is the solution, a transitional government. But the problem is that men in power won't agree to it. This is the solution, transitional government, inclusive dialogue, release of prisoners, cessation of hostilities, a new charter about how to rule Ethiopia, about relations between federal government and states, then new elections. This is the solution, but the men in power, they will never agree to it. Ace Fiasco says Amharas won't agree to it. Ethiopia belongs to them in their minds. Ethiopia belongs to all of you. Ethiopia does not belong to one ethnic group. But the problem is that one group has been ruling Ethiopia for several decades with the help of other groups. You cannot deny this fact, viewers, that Tigray, though not the largest group in Ethiopia, they have had much share in the governments of the past. Now we are seeing that Abiy Ahmed is in power, he is Oromo, Amharas are also backing him. So that is why I'm saying that there must be some sort of power sharing agreement about the relationship between federal government, between ethnic groups, federal government and member states. There was some sort of power sharing deal is needed, I think, in Ethiopia, viewers. The execution of a young boy in broad daylight, One Love is saying. Yes, I did a video on that, One Love. It happened in Damidolo,